Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Today I kind of want to take a little bit of a different path in our discussion and kind of reflect on the past a little bit. Sometimes I don't think we remember our past or remember the things in our past that have changed us as a person and made us who we are. And I think that's part of soul searching. I think that is a part of understanding why we are the way we are. Everybody has had different things happen in their past, whether it's good or bad, and I think that's kind of what forms us and shapes us into who we are today. So, I have a lot of people ask, how are you always so positive, or how do you always look to the future, or where did you get these, ideas to set goals, and so on and so forth. And I've mentioned before in the past, I had one teacher that sat down and had us write out goals at the beginning of the school year, and then at the end of the year she gave it to us and let us see kind of what's changed in our lives based on those goals. And a lot of the goals you just put in the back of your head, but if they're there, subconsciously you are working towards them. So there's that. There's the strong influence of my grandma Bonnie. She was a huge influence on just showing me one aspect of life, and we were not spoiled. We did not have a lot. We had a lot of love and a lot of cherished moments, a lot of memories, and it showed me that, you don't have to have a lot to have a lot. On the same note, her daughter, Beth, which is my aunt, she was like a sister to me. She was the one that took me to the baseball park. She's the one that took me to Dairy Queen. She was so much older than me and in high school, and I looked up to her. And when she moved out, she kind of was the one to show us, bill paying and maintaining a house and how to keep a house clean and moving, but also to juggle a life and bills and shopping and kind of having the better mix of both. I also had a huge influence from my grandma Frances, which is my mom's mom. It was kind of the other end of the spectrum. She always had air conditioning, which we did not. So when I went there was always air conditioning, and it was a newer house, nicely built, newer house in a subdivision. So I kind of seen that. But she also showed that the love and the care and the memories in the house are no different. So it kind of gave me the good view between both worlds. And it was a nice little blend that showed me you can have whatever you want to have. You just have to work hard for it. And just because you don't have a lot, maybe, doesn't mean you can't have a happy life, a good life, a clean life, and build memories and cherish the things around you. So the little mixture of both worlds was wonderful for me growing up as a child. I also did live with my mom quite a bit, off and on, here and there. And like I mentioned, we didn't have a lot. I was shocked because a lot of people, since I've started doing these videos and just in conversation and talking to different people and having different conversations and discussions, it really kind of made me take a step back because I know where I come from. I know who I am. But looking from the other person to me, I started to understand how they perceive me and see me. And a lot of people perceived that I grew up in a very good household. I grew up in a very middle class to upper class home. Nothing but the opposite of that. And that this vision of what they had of me is actually almost the opposite of what I come from, which was very enlightening. I think sometimes we look at somebody and we assume off of what they say or what they do or what you see of them at the moment, that's the way they were brought up. And that's not always the case. I've always said that it does not matter how you were brought up. It doesn't matter what you were given as a child. Once you turn 18, and that gives you the choice to move out. That gives you the choice to have your own bills. That gives you the own choice to make the choice to change your life for whatever you want it to be. So I cannot tolerate when people say, well, I come from a poor family. Well, this is all we've had, or this is all that I knew. That's fine. I understand that. But at the end of the day, it's up to you to make those changes. It's up to you to change the things in the past that you didn't like, or that didn't work for you, or that you didn't think that were okay, or that unsettled you. So I understood that, and I guess it's just the blend from the people that surrounded me. Excuse me. I was able to see kind of the best sides of both worlds and understand kind of what I wanted in life and what I didn't want in my life and make those changes. Later on in my life, I did meet some friends down the street, and they were wonderful. I was an only child my whole life, so I didn't have brothers and sisters. I had family members, so when we all got together, there was kids my age, but never brothers and sisters. Down the street lived a family on the corner in a big, beautiful house up on the hill. And one day I was riding my bike, and one of the girls hollered across the street, "Hey, you boy." So I looked around, and she said, "Come over here." And I told her I couldn't talk to strangers. Well, she said, "My name is Sarah, and this is Amanda, and this is Brian, Maddie, and this is Joe, and now we're not strangers." Okay, so now we're not strangers. So we talked for a little bit, and she asked if I wanted to come in and play with them, and it was just crazy because I thought, they're all your brothers and sisters? So I said, sure. So I went in. We went into their basement that was finished, which blew my mind because we had a basement, but it was far from what you'd call finished. But I still loved it. That was my little area. So when I went to their basement, I was like, yeah. And then I walked in, it's another house. So they asked me about, Nintendo and Sega and what's my favorite game and character, and I didn't know any of that because we didn't have any of that. So after that day, it kind of launched off to something that none of us understood it would. To this day, I still consider them like a brother and sister to me. When I talk to them and I reach out to them and they reach out to me and we run into each other and stuff, there's a connection there that has been formed over the years, and that will always be there in my heart. They've all kind of moved and dispersed, and they started their own lives and done their own things, and I've got to talk to them, and it's amazing the impact you can have on somebody's life and not realize it, and how other people can impact your life and they not realize it. So I ended up staying, a night here and there, and then we ended up staying on the weekends, and then it just kind of just transformed into this family that I never knew I could have. But they also showed me what a home can be like, that big of a family and diverse of a family. It was two families come together as one, and just humankind, of how you can reach out and change somebody's life for the better. So they didn't act any better than what I come from. They never put me down from where I come from. They never acted as if I was any different than them. And so that also shaped my mentality around, it does not matter what you have or what you don't have. Everyone is still human, and everybody deserves that chance to show who they are and accept them for them, not from what house they live in or what they don't have or what they do have. And so that compassion and that foresight on humankind really stuck with me and shaped me into a better person. So with all that being said, I kind of look back, and I just wanted to explain kind of where I come from, the things I've kind of been through that's kind of maybe helped shape me and help me understand other people's perspectives. Because at the end of the day, I do think we need to look at the positive aspect of things. I think we do need to strongly fight for a good atmosphere and an even energy balance in your home and in your life. And the things that I've said on the video, I truly mean and I live by. But it didn't come because I was brought up that way. It didn't create me from the past of what I am now. So, with that being said, years ago, I had a teacher with the goals and stuff, and they talked about journals, writing in journals and putting your thoughts down on paper and stuff. And so for some reason, I decided to start doing that. And I'm not a big reader. I don't get into books. I like movies, I have documentaries, I like, the past and history on things. I just don't like to read about it. So writing isn't really my thing. When I was in school, they told me I was dyslexic. So that started explaining a lot the older I got. Everything that I knew as far as spelling and the issues I was having with spelling, it was because certain things were backwards and certain things were flip-flopped. And so I had people telling me, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong, when to me it looked right. Same thing with my numbers. Whenever you have certain numbers side by side and stuff, I'll switch them. I still do that to this day. I can just recognize it, and I understand that's a battle that I have for my life. But I decided to start journals to hopefully kind of just put my thoughts down on paper. And what happened was it kind of sealed parts of my history, which I didn't realize I was doing at the time, which was wonderful. And also, it kind of purged some of that stuff out of me. All the weight that I had on my shoulders, some of the negativity I had on my shoulders, it purged it out onto paper, and it made me feel better. So, as I looked back, I got different journals at different times. This here was one of my first journals. If anybody recognizes the type of notebook, it's very 1990s. And it's just your normal paperback book. And in the title I said, don't read Only Tyler's. I'm guessing I meant Only Tyler's Eyes. I don't know. But looking back at this was crazy. The first entry I put down was March 10th at 10:28 p.m. 1998 is what I put down. I was talking about my birthday party and how I was getting ready to turn 13. Shocker. I forgot a lot of this stuff. So just before I started recording, I kind of flipped through just to get an idea of what I wrote about and stuff. And it's insane the things that you write about that I forgot about, that you don't remember. So I think this is very important. I start and then I'd stop for a while. Sometimes, a couple weeks, sometimes a couple months. Sometimes just days off and on, and then I would go through spurts where I'd write every single day. But nevertheless, it seems like I always went back to it when something was on my mind or something big in my life happened, positive or negative. But this was my first one in 1998. Crazy! I have this one, which is kind of fun. It's leatherback. It's kind of fancy. Look at me, upgrading in the world. I have this one. And the title was Some of My Life. I don't know if you can see that. Yes. And I put starting Wednesday, June 30th, 2004. So I write in it. Just different chapters, different things that went on in my life until I finished it up. And I thought, okay, that's done for that. And it's not because it was the last page or whatever. It was at that point I was done with this kind of chapter, it looked like, and I was ready to move on to a fresh book. And they're all like that, which is very interesting. This is another one. Very nice. It's also like a leather. Has a leather tie on it. This one says, Moving Forward is the title of it. My name. And I started this June 3rd, 2006. January 3rd, 2006. At 11:30 p.m. was my first entry, and it was Happy New Year. And I talked about the New Year. So it was just kind of interesting to see that. And then this big one had a compass on it, which is kind of interesting because, like I said, there's things in your life that mean something to you. This is kind of a tattoo I've been thinking about getting. I've wanted another one, but I just didn't know where or what to get. And the compass is really just, it's a symbol that talks to me. Sometimes, you just feel lost in life. Sometimes you don't know which direction you're going, but somehow you always do make it. This one's quite a large book. This was, oh wow, at 12:06 a.m., 3/11/2016. That's my birthday, March 11th, 1985, by the way. Happy birthday to me. I'm 31. Yep, today it's my 31st birthday. But it's just interesting to see what you put into a book and how that can kind of seal a moment in time and remind you of things. There was things in there, the very first one, talking about my mother being gone, working out of town. Looking back, I never really thought it affected me, and I thought I was kind of okay with it, and I knew she had to go out of town and work. And as I was just now reading, I was talking about being homesick and being stressed and didn't understand what was going on, which was huge. That's powerful. Because looking back on my history, I didn't think it hurt me. I didn't think it really changed anything because I stayed with my grandma Frances for so much. Also, my Aunt Beth would step in and I would go with her for the weekend and stuff. So, looking back, I thought it was no big deal, but apparently it was, because the stuff I put down here, that's how I was feeling at the moment. So apparently there was something in there that changed me. So I think everybody, we talk about goals and writing them down, and vision boards, we talked a lot about how to do it. I highly suggest getting a diary or doing an electronic diary. There's blogs too. You can do it just for people to read and stuff. It's good. It's good just to do it and purge it out, but then it's also good in a year, 2 years, 3 years, 10 years to look back on it and kind of remember some of the tragedies even you went through. That's some of the things in here that were the most powerful thing to me, is looking back on certain situations that were tragic or upsetting or hard to deal with, and realizing that at that moment I felt like I wasn't going to make it through it, or why is this happening to me? But yet I made it through it, and I became a stronger, better person, and I could understand that situation better because of it. So it's just kind of like a soul-searching, shell-shocking moment when you go back on history and read your diary in your own handwriting and realize that's where you were at minute, and in the moment that's the way you felt, but you were able to fight through it. So now I'm going to kind of go back on some memories I have and some things that I went through that I think might surprise some people. I'm very big on being transparent, being open. I don't think it's right to be fake. I don't think it's right to put a persona on of being somebody that you're not, or being better than who you really are, just for the sake of putting it on. There's always going to be somebody that is bigger, stronger, faster, smarter, more inspired than you are. And that's a good thing. There's always somebody. So never think that you are something special, that you are just something. We are all special in our own way. Don't discount somebody else to make yourself feel better, because at the end of the day, you're really discounting yourself. That's my theory. That's my way of thinking about it. I'm humble. I'm very, 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 very thankful for where I'm at in life now and for the things I've been through in life. I think if you go through tragedy and bad things and good things, and you find the silver lining in those, you find something good to come out of those, then it wasn't in vain. There was a reason and a purpose for that to happen. It's for you to gather information, to grow from it, to help others get through those times that you've been through. And then it was worth that heartache, that tragedy, that upset, that moment of feeling like I just can't go any further. So, on that, my past, like I said, I was raised by, you know, my dad's mother. I was raised by my aunt. I was raised by my mom a little bit. I was raised by my grandmother on my mom's side. And then this family brought me in, and I'm so thankful for them. Diane, the mother of the family, is still like a mom vision in my head. She was the one that held the whole family together, the one that helped keep everything going and coordinated. One of the hardest working people I know. She worked the longest hours. That's one thing that just sits in my mind, that in the morning before school, she'd be in the office working. When we got home from school, she'd be in the office working. She'd come in and cook dinner and get the house going and make sure we're all fine, and then she would go out and still work in the office. So the inspiration that I gained from that at the moment, I didn't even realize I was gaining. Also seeing all these brothers and sisters kind of go out and do their own thing, and being able to step in, and we did after school things to help the younger ones, help them get their grades up, help them read and write and count. And I still struggled myself, but I was able, looking back, I was able to get down on that level to where I didn't feel better than them. I just seen their struggles, and I knew they needed the help, and I wanted them to do better than what I did. So at the end of the day, they did. So with all those different raisings and households and stuff I was in, I gathered something from each of them. But it wasn't always the good things. It wasn't always the good times. Some of the memories I've had growing up were rough. At Mom's, I remember multiple times of us going without electricity. I remember having no lights, so you had to make sure you did everything you needed to do during the day, because once the sun started to set, light a few candles, but it's bedtime basically. No TV, no such thing as an internet, by the way, but no TV, no computers or video games or anything like that. It was just that was the norm. No air conditioning in the summer. We had fans in the window. By the way, our windows didn't even have screens in them. How we ever survived, I now do not know. But I just know we did. We'd have our big windows open, and we would not have any screens in them. How we did not get the West Nile virus or die from some kind of something from mosquitoes, I don't know. But that was the norm. That was okay. I didn't realize that, you know, making different choices could change those things. I have one memory of, you know, having power. That was okay. We'd have power sometimes, and I was grateful for it, and it was wonderful. But that didn't really change anything except for a fan, because if we had food, we'd put it in a cooler. It's fine. If we had electricity, we'd have it in the fridge, but that's if we had food. I remember so many times going into the kitchen and not really having anything to eat. And it just was what it was. So having that on my mind still to this day has changed the way I do things and the way I cope with things, and still today it haunts me. I worry about not having electricity or not having food or not being able to do something, because I know at the end of the day, no matter how much you make or how much you put in savings or how much you pay on things like that, it can all be changed. One thing can happen and it drain your savings. It drain your financials to where you're back in that boat. So it kind of keeps me motivated. It kind of keeps me humble. One of my dark memories, I guess I would call it, that I don't know why it haunts me so much, because I understand it, but it's one thing that still sticks with me. For anybody that's dealt with somebody or themselves that has any kind of addiction of alcoholism or drugs or abuse or anything like that, I think you can kind of understand it a little bit better. For the most part, my households were always loving. There was always that there. We were always clean. It's another thing. No matter what money you have or don't have, water and soap does not cost that much. You can clean yourself. You can clean your home. Okay? Not asking you to have a whole cabinet full of cleaners and clean with it, but you can still be clean with water and soap. So we were always clean. We were always happy for the most part, and it was always loving. But holidays are always hard for people that are addicts or addicted to things. And one of those moments was Christmas Eve night. And the day before, I went over. My aunt picked me up and her husband and her other two nephews, and we go over there and we do Christmas Eve. We would do Christmas, unwrap our gifts and eat and all that stuff. And then they would take us home that evening, so that way we could spend the evening with our family and then go and wake up at home. So I kind of knew going back home that it probably wasn't going to be the best because it was Christmas Eve, the holidays, so everything was escalated. Finances get bad, emotions get bad, and the guy that my mom was dating at the time always had issues around holidays. He had kids and a family, and it would get rough around those times because he'd get depressed and you know, that kind of thing. But I walked in, so they dropped me off, and I walked up the steps, and I walked to the door, and I opened the front door. And the Christmas tree that was in the corner was down on the ground. And so I knew things weren't great. And I looked back and I waved at my aunt and her husband to let them know that they can go. And they left. So I walked in and I hollered for my mom to see if anybody'd answer, and I didn't hear anything. And hollered again and nothing. And I looked around and there was like the 50-pound bags of dog food. It was spilled everywhere, all over the floor, through the living room and the kitchen and the bedrooms, and it was just everywhere. Kitchen was kind of a mess, and this was Christmas Eve night, and I was probably 14. I might have it actually in these, I do have it in these books somewhere, maybe 13 or 14. And so I looked for Mom, couldn't find her, and so I went over and I got a broom and a dustpan. I started sweeping while I could hear water running. And I couldn't figure out where from. Well, they somehow got in a fight and moved the washer and dryer, shoved it, and it broke the pipe in the basement. So there's water running. So I went downstairs, here, 13, 14-year-old boy, and I was trying to figure out how to turn it off. Turned off the water, went back upstairs, continued to clean. There, it looked like they'd been cooking dinner. There was a pan of mashed potatoes that was thrown onto the ground. And they were still in the pan, but it was on the ground. And the dog came in. And so I thought, well, maybe Mom's on her way back home or something. And the dog started eating the mashed potatoes. So I walked over, and I took mashed potatoes, and I set it back up on the stove and kept sweeping. And quite a bit later, after I cleaned up some, her boyfriend came back to the house and walked in. So we had a couple words, and he sat down at the table and was, you know, trying to talk and just, you know, whenever you're drunk, you just spill your guts and everything, and I just didn't want to listen to it. And I was, of course, aggravated and hurt and mad, but so still to this day, it's clear in my head. I can close my eyes and still see it. He grabbed the potatoes and a spoon. And he sat down and he started to eat the mashed potatoes out of the pan that the dog was licking out of. Now, at a moment, I thought about saying, whoa, but then I kind of just sat back and I just let him eat the mashed potatoes that the dog was licking out of the pan. A part of me kind of felt like that was karma. Another part of me, I guess it was just kind of, I guess just a little payback. Like, this is my Christmas Eve, and look at my home, and my Christmas tree's down, and, like, really? This is what I'm coming home to? So, go ahead. Have that. And I mean, I still think about it. I still, every Christmas, go back in my head and think about it. I don't feel guilty over it. It didn't hurt him. It didn't hurt anybody. But was it right? Probably not. But it's a memory. But at the end of the day, everybody was okay. Nobody's in the hospital that time, thank God. So it was okay. So we just cleaned up the mess and we kept going. Now, I talk a lot about energy and your environment and stuff like that. Coming from situations like that, I strongly believe on saging, cleansing the energy, because the feeling in the house changed completely. When there would be a fight and an argument like that. There would be a lot of negative, and it would just be heavy and tense. So after moments like that, I would always, as a young kid, I would always clean, scrub the house down, scrub the kitchen down, take things out of the cabinets, wash the cabinet, put everything back. In the rooms, living rooms, bedrooms, I would move them around. Sometimes I'd take one bedroom to another bedroom and switch those to completely change the energy in the house. I didn't really know what I was doing at the moment. I just knew that's what made it feel better. That's what ultimately cleansed the atmosphere. Sorry, I'm all congested. Peach tea. Love it. From the Olive Garden, the peach additive. Make yours at home. It's great. Try it. So, I look back on that and I was doing things that I just knew in my gut and in my soul made the situation feel better, made the house feel more like a home again, and made that negative go away. Now, looking as an adult back on it, I realize that's what it was. It's the energy in the house that I was changing, that I was trying to flush out and create a new cleansed atmosphere. So that's why I am so strong about it, because I did it as a child not even knowing what I was doing, and that's how I coped, and that's what I did. I think it's very important. But yes, being open, I think, is another thing. If you have a lot of secrets and skeletons in your closet to hide, all it's going to do at the end of the day is weigh you down and make you run, story after story after story. Whenever it's a whole lot easier just to tell the true story of who you are or what's going on in your life and owning it. People around you can feel that. You will feel better. So I'm pretty open when it comes to things. That's not the proudest moment in my childhood. That's not something that I love to think about or talk about. But it's the facts. That's what I grew up in. There was always alcohol in the house. I mean, like I said, we had no power, but we had phone and we always had beer in the fridge. That didn't make it a bad household most of the time. What made it a bad household was everything else compiled on top of it, and that fueling the fire. So I highly recommend just being truthful to who you are and owning the past, owning the good, owning the bad. I somehow so thankful that I had positive, inspiring people around me, such as Diane, such as my Aunt Beth. My grandmothers, oh my god, both my grandmothers, completely different worlds, and it made me a better person having them both there. I had a lot of teachers that was very supportive. I think looking back, a lot of teachers knew that I came from a rough household, that came from more of a poor household. I'd come to school in probably the same 2-3 outfits every day. Clean, but it was the same stuff all the time. My lovely socks with sandals. God forbid, I wish somebody would have told me to take those off. But a lot of them didn't judge me. They were there to help me, there to give me advice, but they weren't there to judge me for where I come from. And they made me feel comfortable in that environment, and that made me feel better to come to school, because there was a lot of times I didn't want to go to school. My socks not fitting right. My hair not laying right, because I didn't have hair gel, and I didn't have a blow dryer. I didn't have those things. I also couldn't go get my hair cut on a normal every 2-week basis or whatever. Most of the time it was to the point of shaggy, long, and curly, and frizzy, to where it wouldn't really do anything. And I was so worried that it looked bad. There was some days that I refused to go to school because my hair would not do something that looked right. So, at the end of the day, we're all human. At the end of the day, we all have had our battles. We all still have our battles. take those and make yourself a stronger person, make you a braver version of who you were in the past. If you go through all that kind of stuff and you don't get anything out of it, and you let that tear you down and hold you back, and you say, well, I was, beaten as a child, or we didn't have electricity, or we didn't have food, or we went from house to house, or whatever your situation is, if you let that hold you back when you're an adult and after you turn 18, then what you're doing is repeating the cycle that you went through that you didn't like to begin with. Nobody's going to change that but you. So you have to turn around and make those changes. You have to turn around and say, yes, that is my past. Those are the things I went through. Those are bad memories or scarring moments. But I don't like them and I don't want them, so that will not be in my house. That will not be in my workplace. That will not be in my circle. And you let that lead you. That is exactly what I've tried to do. That's what I try to do every day. My home, for anybody that's been here, anybody that knows me, anybody that's around me, knows my home is my haven. I welcome you anytime, all the time, day or night, but there's certain things that will not take place in this atmosphere, and as long as you abide by those healthy rules, then we're fine. You can come from any walk of life whatsoever, because at the end of the day, we're all still the same type of person. We have different backgrounds, we have different lessons that we've learned, but take those moments and become a better you. Write in your journals, look back on them, let them make you a better person, let them kind of lead you to a place that is healthy. Because we all kind of slip. We could be doing good for a while, things turn around, but life happens, and then we slip and things change. But that doesn't mean we can't get back there. And that's kind of what my journals have shown me. I went through some horrible things back then. And one of them I read before I started recording was, I was with my grandmother. She took me to school, and then I rode the bus to her house, and my grandma told me that my mom was in the hospital and asked if I wanted to go see her sometime. And I asked her, why was she in the hospital? I thought maybe she was sick. And my grandma was very honest with me at the time. My mom really believed in being honest. No matter how good or bad it was, be honest, tell the truth, tell the situation the way it is. Don't make a story for it. So she let me know that my mom and her boyfriend, the same one, got in a fight of some nature, and he pushed her. She fell against the coffee table. He then took the phone, broke it, ripped the phone cords out of the wall of the outside of the house, so there's no phone service at all, and left. What he realized or what he didn't realize, I don't know, but at the moment, what happened was it punctured her lung. She got up on the couch, and at that moment, she couldn't move. She's having trouble breathing. Come to find out, she laid there for 24, 48 hours and tried to holler for help. My grandmother called a couple times, I guess that evening or the day before, didn't get anything that morning, so she was out. She went by to check on her and found her on the couch, having trouble breathing, laying there with a punctured lung. Called the ambulance, she went to the emergency room, and they actually had to cut and put a tube in and inflate her lung back. For anybody that knows about that or went through anything of that nature, it is, I've heard, one of the most horrible pain ever, because they cannot numb you, because they have to make sure they're not hurting any nerves or going in too far. You have to let them know. So she could have died. And I remember thinking about that, and I still do, that how could you allow that kind of violence? I don't care who you love. I don't care what relationship you're in. As an adult, you know right from wrong, and as an adult, you have to know when to say enough is enough. However much I love you, however much I care about you, enough's enough. Now I have to love you differently. As a friend, you have to go away. So after that, it really kind of changed my dynamic, I think, and outlook on relationships and on people. I had to know my hard no's, and I had to know when enough is enough. And I still think that has changed me as a person. So in my world of relationships and dating and trusting people, I think that's kind of where my guards come up sometimes, because I never want to allow it to get to that point or allow somebody to even get that close to where they could possibly have that much control over me. That will not happen. First of all, if you do something like that to me, be prepared. Because whenever I get better, be prepared. And I don't allow violence. I don't allow physical violence or verbal violence in my friendships or in my relationships. It's just not needed. It's really not. So just know your hard no's. Know when enough is enough. Know when to walk away. You are the one that's allowing your life to be the way it is, whether it's good or bad. So if you're in a toxic relationship with your spouse, that's your fault. If you're in a toxic relationship at work, it's your own fault. Make those decisions, make those changes. So with that being said, I guess I'll kind of come to a conclusion. Own your past, own who you are as a person and where you come from, because that's what creates you as a person. Let it help you grow and become a better you. Make notes, make a journal, so you can go back and read your past and find out that's why I come from where I come from. So with that, everyone, good luck, and I hope this has helped. I want everybody to know that I did not come from something amazing, and I've not seen pain and heartache and pressure and violence and abuse and people addicted to drugs and alcohol, because I have. That's where I come from. I'm no better than the next. I have created my adult life for the way I want it to be and the way I think it should be. And once you realize you're the one that holds that control to change your household, to change the people around you, to change your relationship, to change your job, you hold the key. You have the key right there. And there's the door. The question is, are you going to take that key, put it in the door, unlock it, and go through? Or are you just going to hold the key saying, well, I want to try. Well, this can get better. Well, I hope this can change. How long will you allow your life to be in that situation before you do that? That's with relationships, work, depression, anxiety, all those kind of things that alter your life for not the positive, for the negative. You hold the key to change. Whether you need to go to therapy, whether you need to be on a little bit of medicine to help you deal if it is depression or addiction, you still hold that key to make that change. So I'm very humble. I'm very thankful for all those negative, bad, nightmare moments that I went through, for the fact that it made me a better person. I don't hold anything against my mom, because I pulled the positive out of it. Do I wish that she had a 9-to-5 job that covered a consistent income that could have made sure the lights were always on and food was always in the fridge? Yes, of course. Looking back now as an adult, a little changes here and there with her decisions in her life could have made the world of difference in my life. But would I be the person I am today if that would have happened? So sometimes we just have to accept what it was and go forward. We all have our own stories. We all have our own demons, is I like to refer them to. But how do we deal with the demons? If we keep running from them, will they get better? No. If we keep on talking about those demons and purging them out and owning who they are and realizing what damage they did and how we don't want those to be in our future to help us grow forward, that's what it's about. That's what's going to make the change. That's what's going to make the difference. So do everything you can to dig deep. Soul search as much as you can. Make your notes in your journal just so you can, even if it's a half a page, just, hey, today was really good, had a little anxiety, blah, 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 the end. That's fine. If it's 5 pages, that's wonderful. Whatever you feel, that's what you do. If you try to hide the past or try to act like the past was what it wasn't, the only person it really is going to affect at the end of the day is you. It's not going to affect your friends. It's not going to affect your coworkers. It's going to affect you because you're not owning who you really are. And for anybody that judges you for a person that you are, if it's not up to their standard or if it's not up to their understanding, then that's on them. That's fine. If somebody wants to look at me and go, oh my gosh, I didn't realize you come from that world, and that changes their perspective of me for the worst, that's on them. That's fine. Because I own it. I know it. My mom was leading and living her life. My dad was leading and living his life the way they wanted and the way they thought they could. That's their life. I can't hold that against them. Once they got sick and once they went and they passed, one thing I had to say was they both lived a pretty cool and fun life, for the most part. With that being said, there was multiple and many things they went through because of the choices they made that were probably not the best thing. But that was their life. So I can't hold that against them. I don't think my mom ever intentionally was thinking she was doing horrible things to me. Because my grandma or a family member or the family down the street would always kind of swoop in. And I seemed fine. So I think if either of them kind of thought that they were doing wrong, they would have done things to change it. My dad, he actually did. I didn't have a good relationship with him or a real relationship with him till later in life. And so thankful I was able to get that. So it's never too late to make the changes and make those connections with a mother, a father, family, extended, if you're adopted, if they've disowned you, whatever it is. 10 years can go by with no communication. If that's the time it takes to heal with the situation, then that's fine. But you have to heal yourself first so you can go in it with an open mind and understand that it's two lives, your life and their life, and you have to be kind of in the same spot at the same time. You'll come together and have those conversations to have a relationship. But own it and understand it and grow from it, and then learn to accept the way it is. So there's many, many, many other stories about the things I've seen and things I've went through. The close people around me have heard some of the stories, and that was my life. That was my childhood. And they'll look at me and they'll be like, oh my God, are you for real? Like, that's what you've seen, or that's what you went through? To me, it was normal. Sorry. To me, it was normal. Looking back, I realized how non-normal my childhood really was. But that's fine, because I understand what it was, and I accept it for what it was. And it has made me who I am. So, with that being said, I hope everybody goes out and buys a journal. Go to like Barnes & Noble, get on Amazon. Find you a nice, beautiful journal that kind of speaks to you. Start making notes. Write it down. Lock it in your safe. And I don't read them all the time. I always waited like a couple of years and go back on it. And it's amazing the things that stand out to you. It's healthy. It's a way to purge some of the stuff out of you onto paper, but not lose it. And so, like I've said before, if this is going to help somebody you know, feel free to share it. If it's going to help somebody understand that it's a small world out there, and really at the end of the day, it's fine to own your past, no matter the good and the bad, then it's worth it. I don't mind being open. I don't mind to tell my side of the stories to show that you can, you know, go through some tragic moments, still come out okay. So, if anybody has any questions or any concerns about my past, feel free to ask. Feel free to come to me. Feel free to send me a message and I'll talk to them. I'll talk about them. So, at the end of the day, we're all human people. We're all human. We all have our problems and our issues and our stresses and our anxieties and our depressions. but we also have love and compassion. And if we stand on the good and look at the bad, then it's all worth it. So thank you. This video went a little over what I was expecting, but thank you for watching. Thank you for all the cares and the positive words. I really do appreciate that. That means a lot to me. So till next time, I will talk to you later.